Welcome back to another episode of the Resonator's Conquest podcast. This week we're going to talk all about the Old Dominion. Alright, let's start as always with the count. For my army, I actually have 2 Archimandrites, 1 Heliarch, 1 Strategos, 24 Mori, 24 Keres, 6 Cataphracti, the 6 Bone Golems, and I have 12 each of the Legionnaires and the Praetorians. I also have one of the Profane Reclary, a Dark Centaf, and an Optimo. This is roughly around 2,200 points, and that's just giving the bare minimums like the Keres and the Mori, giving them a spell, and I think there was one other thing I had to give something points to just to kind of make it look right. Now to the state of my army. For the color scheme, I really wanted them to look and appear as if they had come out of the earth, like they were just resurrected almost. Done with the Mori pretty much, except for a couple little details I want to put on the bases and even stands. To the Keres, I kept them really similar to the Mori, but they have some little different details. Obviously they have spells. They're big, kind of like a javelin spell. It looked to me like lightning, so I kind of made it just kind of bluish with white mixed into there. And then the other one was just like a big swirl, so I was just like, let's just do some kind of purple. That would be kind of cool. It's like a different little spell effect that I think most people are using, so I wanted them to look unique. Alright, the Keres, they actually are attached to the bases, so I was going to do the same as the Mori with them when it comes to basing, and do a crackle earth, and then put some little details like the rocks and arid kind of even cactuses, arid plants or cactuses and stuff like that. With the Legionnaires, I wanted to put them on sand. So most of I think Legionnaires and Praetorians are probably going to go on sand. And then I'll figure out what to do with the Bone Golems and the Cataphracti. But to be very honest, those Bone Golems are kind of awkwardly positioned. And I think that I might do some custom bases, like 3D print some custom bases. Because one of them I actually glued wrong, where there's like a gap between the 2 bottom feet. And so like one's down here and one's up here, and I need to put them like kind of climbing up some stairs or something else like that. So I may end up like working, either trying to find one or modifying a 3D printed base and just go with that. I have 3 new Bone Golems, as you can probably see from the photos. They still aren't even primed at this point yet, but I will prime them, and then I'm gonna airbrush these skulls with I think it was a bone Reaper bone color that I used. But I'll definitely do that before I continue on with painting them. I have a new Heliarch. I painted a Heliarch, and I decided to put it into the painting competition at Kubla Khan. And I won a little prize. I think everyone won a prize, but still, it was fun to do. And I didn't save any of that paint scheme, except for like the photos that I have of it that actually didn't come out that well. But I still have some photos of it. So now that I have a new one to replace that one that was lost, I'm just gonna have to start over. I think I'm gonna make them look. I did it really quickly anyway, because I just wanted to get it, table ready. And so I think this time I'll take a little bit more time and put a little bit more detail into my Heliarch. Even though I think I'm going to use this Strategos, however you pronounce it. I think I'm going to use that a little bit more, just because the more I play with it, the more I really like it. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to put a little bit more details into that and get that done as well. And then I also bought those 3 new upgrade pieces to my regiments, to the Praetorian and the Legionnaires. The Dark Centaf, the Optio, and the other one, I forget what it's called, the same. But, I just got all those, so I'm going to start painting those as well, too. I gotta get them primed. I don't know, though. The resin seems to paint really nicely onto it, and I'm all a proponent of less layers, so I might just paint right onto them, the resin pieces anyway. Now for my favorite regiments and characters. So, first off, we're going to start off with one I kind of just mentioned a minute ago, the Strategos. His supremacy ability of Glimmers of the Golden Age is just wonderful. Okay, not only does it give you the ability to go up to level 4 with your Dark Power Pool, but it also gives you Flawless Drill special rule. for all regiments. It's always considered active. You can also pop the one time per game ability to give all of your regiments and characters as if they had one tier higher in their dark power pool. Moving on to the next character that I really like is the Archimandrite. Now, I'm just a fan of healing in general because I think it's a really strategic way to keep yourself involved in the game, especially with other heals from other factions. But using Hazlitt's Touch with the Archimandrite is just... It's frustrating because you can only get so many heals out of it, like 5 max when you're at tier 4. But there's ways to kind of bump it up earlier in the game so you get a little bit more heals. And I feel like the Old Dominion characters, or regiments really, are a lot stronger than some of the other factions. So, just a couple heals really does help them out. Next is the Keras. What I really like about them is that they can't inspire, so they have to choose to do something else. Especially like, let's say they're in melee. Well, they're not very good at melee. So what else can they do? Shoot off their spells. Or even, like, if you want to take a chance and just shoot off a spell and then still just do your barrage without, upping it by taking aim, they still do a pretty good job. And I feel like they're really versatile in that regards. And I just like the looks of them too. Next is the same kind of look and feel as the Mori, and I like them even more than I like them the Keras. Their aura of death I'm really in love with, and then their ability to give themselves cleave multiple times is amazing. The Mori's Memory of Old ability gives them cleave +1 and also wizard +1 per stand. Now let's ignore the wizard +1 for right now. If the Mori are in engagement range with an enemy regiment, and it's tier 3 of the dark power pool, and they activate it, they would get to use Memory of Old to give them cleave +1 as a draw event. Then as their first action, they get to use the Memory of Old again to give them cleave 2, and then go ahead and clash at this point. Not only that, but the Mori have one of my favorite rules in all of Conquest, which is fluid formation. So they have this ability to always be able to redirect themselves or change the formation of their ranks and files to be able to, fit into different areas. Or, let's say they wanted to pass an enemy regiment to get to a different enemy regiment that they were going to charge. So they're very, very versatile. They're hard to bring in because they're restricted. And the Archimandrite can't join them just like they can't join the Keras. Our next segment is favorite rules. Blasphemous Soma is an Old Dominion arcane treasure worth 40 points. When a character stand is equipped with this treasure is on the battlefield, at the start of each round before the supremacy phase begins, add 1 dark power token to an empowerment pool of your choice. I love this. This allows you to get your dark power tiers up high faster. The next rule I really like for the Old Dominion is Insanity with the Keras. Let's read that. The Keras spell Insanity has a 12-inch range and an attunement value of 3. For each success, you get 2 hits on the enemy regiment. Now, the enemy regiment can't use their defense, they actually have to use their lowest resolve characteristic in that regiment. And this does not incur a morale test. However, at tier 2, any wound caused by this spell creates an additional wound on an unmodified roll of 6. Then, if the dark power pool is at 3, then at this point, it does incur a morale check. This is why I really like the Keras, because once they get into that 12-inch range, not only going to be able to be barraging you, but they'll be able to hit these spells off. And then if you charge them, or if they happen to charge you just to stop you from charging, like say the Household Knights or something like that, they're going to be able to still use their Insanity ability to do a lot of damage, even if they are not going to attack, like melee clash them, The next rule that I really like is another spell, but this one's from the Archimandrite, and this is going to be Dark Immolation. It has a range of 8 inches with a attunement of 3 and scaling. Now, what this does is, one of the things I like thematically about the whole Old Dominion is Aura of Death. I really like I guess I'd have to say I'm not like the point maxer at all times. I really like to have a thematic army and something that's fun to play. If it's not fun, why am I playing, you know? So this really like kind of bumps up Aura of Death all over the place. So let's look at what it says. It says, target friendly regiment gains Aura of Death X, where X is the current tier of the Dark Power Pool. Any regiment affected by this spell has the Aura of Death X special rule limited to the max Aura of Death of 5. And this also lasts to the end of the round. I just love Aura of Death. It's one of those, another fun kind of aspect of Conquest in general where you can take out enemy regiments just by them activating themselves when you're engaged with them. And this is just really fun. So I've done an army already that was all Aura of Death. And it was really with this, I was able to give the Karas Aura of Death as well. And then using the Bone Golems. And then I think that was really it. But I was using everything that had Aura of Death. And I wanted to just kind of pump it out there. And it worked really, really well. And it was really fun to just kind of have them out there on the field and doing damage by just being engaged. And it also kind of made me think that this is kind of the way I painted them almost. You know, they have like that dirty look, like the was it Lionel from Charlie Brown that had the aura of, you know, funk around him. That's like what my Old Dominion have. They have an aura of funk around them, and they will kill you if you get engaged with them. So I really like Dark Immolation. Going on with this, I also like Immolation, which the Mori have. Let's look at that really quick here. Immolation has a range of self. It's a 3 attunement and scaling as well. And with this, it does the regiment gains Aura of Death X until the start of their next activation. Now this is even better because it's the next activation, where X is the number of successes divided by 2, rounded up. And then it also says it's maxed out at 5. So you can't get more than Aura of Death 5. But even if you have Aura of Death 5, that is just amazing. Like, it's going to do 5 hits, and they're going to be like, uh-oh, they're going to have to roll for those. Then they're going to have to roll for the morale test after them. Aura of Death, Dark Immolation, Immolation. I'm a fan. The last rule that I really like about the Old Dominion is their memory of old abilities. All of them are different. All of them are unique. Bone Golems, for instance, that just bumps up their Aura of Death. So when you either activate it as an action or it's a draw event, so that's another thing you can do with them is if it's at tier 3, you can activate it as a draw event and then activate it as a activation, and then they'll end up having Aura of Death +2 at that point, which they already have 2, so that would make them Aura of Death 4. And then if you Dark Immolation them, you can get them up to a 5. And that's just fun. I mean, the Bone Golems don't go away very fast. And like I was saying earlier, the memory of old for the Mori are just nasty, and they are gonna make that cleave bump up and do a lot of damage. So I really like the memory of old. I really like playing with all the different abilities, and it really makes the whole army feel unique in that aspect. Next is my playstyle. The Mori and the Karas are pretty much my bread and butter. I love having them in the field, and they're light, so they're always going to come on first, and I'm always going to push them forward as far as I can quickly. I really like to protect my Mori by either putting my Karas in front of them or putting them in position so that they don't get charged, because I wanted them to do the charging and get into engagement range and then start tearing them up, those enemy regiments. Behind them, I almost always have my Legionnaires that have my Archimandrites, so that I can start healing either both the Karas and the Mori, or mainly the Mori. I want my Mori to stay alive throughout this whole battle, if I can, because they're going to be doing the most amount of damage, at least when it comes to the Mori compared to the Karas. Once I have these 3 regiments on the battlefield and kind of doing their thing, after these 3 regiments, I'm going to bring in regiments that are going to be able to deal with the objectives, either destroying the objectives or seizing the objectives. Usually, if I can get my Mori and Karas up there fast enough, that really stops and slows down the enemy regiments, and then everything else will come in behind them and start, securing points and destroying the markers, and they can do their thing. So that's how I like to do it is just kind of, again, I guess it's really aggressive as well. I want to go really far forward and then look at object now to the future of my army. As I've said earlier in this video, I need a fallen divinity. I just absolutely need one. So I'm going to get one. Eventually, we'll see when I get one. But I will have a fallen divinity, and I'm really looking forward to fielding it on the battlefield. I also need to build up my legionnaires and praetorians. I only have 12 of each, and I just feel like I need more. Well, I really do need more in order to just field things that I need to field when it comes to mainstays and restricted and last argument of kings. When it comes to First Blood, I have everything that I need, I feel like, except for any kind of new things and also the Fallen Divinity. Even though I really don't play with big models in First Blood. I usually play with a lot of smaller models. With this faction, I've really only been focused on what has been available. So I haven't really looked into like what's not available and what I may want in the future. I'm just kind of playing it by ear. I'm really enjoying the aesthetics. I'm really enjoying the gameplay, memory of old, and they're not having to resolve. It's kind of funky, not inspiring too, but hey, it comes with the territory. So I'm really enjoying everything about the army in general, which is why I'm kind of focused on it more so lately. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Resonators Conquest podcast. Next week will be the Spire.